Okay, hello. It's still September 3rd, 2024. It's Tuesday. This is a continuation of the video I just made. I accidentally cut it off. But so the person who showed up here yesterday, this gentleman, this young man, like 45 something year old guy from Austin, well, he lives in Austin. Okay, so that happened. But like I said, I want to show you the photo because I realized I tried to, the SIM card that I switched into this other phone is not, don't have access. It's not showing me photos, but maybe if I'm going to try to show the old broken phone where that other SIM card was, maybe maybe it'll show up. You see what I mean? Let's see. Maybe the picture's there. It should be there, but I don't know. That's the thing about these weird phones is that, well, I know that if I take the SIM card out, in the past when I've done that, I still can see photos and things that are still in the phone, even though the SIM card's not there. So I'm going to show you the photo of the white Honda that's on Alan's property in Kerrville. It was there. I don't know what became of the truck that he had or the Honda. Well, let's see. It might be worth a little. It's probably worth at least $1,000. You know, Hondas are good cars. You can rebuild the engine and it'll last forever. And that little car. I don't know. It's a cool little. I like Hondas. I like the older models of Hondas and things like this. You know. So where is it? Let's see. I know. And I'm going to be able to show you. It's going to be on here. I'll be able to show you. Here it is. Here it is. Here's a picture of the Civic on Alan's property in Kerrville, or Alan's, no, he's not, he's dead. So this is the picture of the Honda that was on his property. You see, I took a photo of it. That's on the property at Cypress Creek in Kerrville. Well, anyhow, and I have some other photos as well that I took this is a picture of the actual cabin where he lived. His house was on stilts. And this is a picture of something else that I took of. He had a lot of random things on that property. He was not really a hoarder. He collected tools and he had a lot of things in his work shed, his greenhouse. A lot of tools, and all my paintings were in the shed, greenhouse. But he had a bunch of tools. He was a cabinet maker. He was a woodworker. And I guess after he got sick and could no longer walk at some point, he no longer was able to probably do that because of his knees. His knee, and he couldn't do his wood making cabinetry anymore. So, but he was I didn't even know all these. He was a stained glass. He made stained glass, and he was an artist. He did a lot of things out of stained glass. He was very creative, very artistic, but a reclusive kind of loner, I guess, a government dissident like me. Kind of like, didn't live off the grid, but may as well have, because he was very reclusive, very much so. It's kind of funny that how he is, and I'm a lot like that. It's like, well, but I don't live on a cabin on stilts, but I could see myself living in Galveston on stilts in a cabin by the water. Just saying. But anyway, so the dude who showed up here the other day just randomly like that a couple days ago, he was driving a Honda. I was like, wow. And then I ended up telling him, I said, I was like, your car, what year is that? He said it was like a 91 or 94 Honda. And he told me that he builds cars and engines, and he had won some rewards for rebuilding engines. And he showed me I saw his Facebook profile, and he had some interesting photos of a trophy and a lot of pictures. So the guy's builds, and he's creative, and he knows how to do things with his hands. He's good at things like that. Obviously, he could fix a fucking, one of those types of people. People usually who have tattoos like me, I don't have them covered, but people like that are usually more, they're creative people. They do things with their hands. They're artists. They are builders, contractors a lot of the times, or they're mechanics a lot. You know what I mean? It's kind of like, there's two different kinds of people. There's the left brain kind and the right brain kind of people. Usually the more right brain people are more creative types with their doing art and whatnot. Like I said, the more left brain are more, you know what I mean? More, I'm in the office, I do this, there's just different kinds of people. Nothing wrong with that. I'm just saying it is what it is. And this man was a complete opposite to what I have. It's like, I'm not looking for anybody. I'm not looking for a boyfriend. I'm not looking for, it's like it was weird. One of those things where it's like, what the fuck is going on here? Who sent you? And he was telling me he was looking for me. Well, okay, you're looking for me, but who sent you? So anyway, that happened on Sunday, and that was just random because I talked to him. He wanted to give me he asked me if I could give him a ride to drive him to some place to check on his car because somebody had stolen his 2023 brand new truck, he said. I said, well, who stole your truck? He's like, and he told me what happened. I was like, oh my God, I'm not going to go into detail about what he told me, how that happened, because he said, can you just give me a ride to Potomac Street? And I was like, okay, that street sounds familiar. I know I've seen it. I was like, where have I seen that street? I know I've seen it. It's one of these streets that's over by the Pauper Cemetery or the Veteran Cemetery or the over here on the east side, off of over here, New Braunfels and whatnot, the cemetery over by East Houston and the HEB and shit. And I've seen that street before. I was like, I know that street. I've walked down that street many a time by the graveyard. So we started talking about paranormal stuff too. He was fascinated with my altar, and he said, what is that for? I said, he started talking about the Santa Muerte, and he told me about some stories about in prison, how they worship her and how they see her, and she'll show up in the mirror, and about men who because he told me a lot. He said he had a lot of stories from prison. I was like, I bet you do. And he was talking about that Santa Muerte lady. He's like, why? And I was like, well, she's a saint. I like that. I've always liked that, Santa Muerte. I'm not the only one who does, but we got into conversation about that and then other things. But I told him that's an altar to the dead, because all the people in there are dead. They're deceased. Photos of deceased people. Except that I said the only person who's not, and I showed him a black and white picture of my aunt, and I was like, well, she's the only person on that whole tabletop who's not dead. And he said something like, I bet you wish she was, right? I said, no. No. But he said, and I bet you want her to be dead. And I was like, no, I don't want her to be dead. But he said that, and I was like, gosh, okay. Somebody who's very forward, I'm very forward and direct as well, but this guy was like real. And he was on, he was high. Let's just put it that way. He was high on something. I'm not going to say what, but I know he was because he told me he was. And I could tell. And then you know what I mean? I'm not going to go into detail about that. But he was on some drugs, and he asked me if I want. I was like, no, I don't want any. I don't do that. I've never done that. No, thank you. No, sir, I don't. And he respected that. And that was that. I didn't, But anyway, I ended up driving him he wanted me to go in my car, and he left his car parked out here to go to Potomac Street to check on something. And we did drive over there, and he was like, oh, hi, don't let him see us. And I was like, well, and he's like, the truck's not here. I was like, okay, well, call the police, do a police report, dude. He's like, it's not in my name. I'm like, well, then what are you going to do? If your truck got stolen, then obviously you need to do a police report. He's like, well, there's nothing I can do because it's not my name. I'm like, I don't know what to tell you. That sucks. You got your truck stolen, but the truck's not in your name. And he told me what happened. I'm like, oh my God. If you get yourself into those kinds of predicaments, what he told me, which was some kind of weird scenario, some kind of threesome, some involving some woman and her husband. And so I was like, well, dude, I was thinking to myself, that's the kind of stuff that's going to happen to you if you're not careful. I'm sorry, but people, look, I'm very open about who I am. I am a person who is heterosexual. I'm not into these weird kinky threesome type things that some people are into. I'm not into any of that. And for whatever reason, I get approached by men a lot who are into these weird kinds of things that I've never done, that I would never do, and they get the wrong idea about me. It's like, no, I don't do that. I don't get in the middle of people's marriages. I'm not that way. I have morals. But for whatever reason, maybe I give off the vibe that I'm that kind of way, that I'm like one of these people who likes to get involved with these kinds of triangulation, things like that, which I don't. But I tend to attract sometimes men who are into men who are into those kinds of things. Now, to each his own. If people are into those kinds of things, if your sexual preferences, okay, I'm not. I am not. I never have been and I never will be. But to each his own. And then he mentioned that he did mention to me that he worked in the adult industry. He told me that he has worked in that industry before as an escort or something along those lines. And I'm like, really? Interesting. I was like, that's interesting. Can you tell me more about that? I was fascinated. So I was like, what? Is that why you do the things that you do? Is that why you're doing, these substances? And he told me that the reason he does these things is because it enhances what he does in that industry. And I'm like, I've heard that before from other people that they take certain drugs which make them feel more adequate in the department of that, of what. And I've heard that before. It's no secret. People know that a lot of people feel, a lot of people, especially men, they feel like if they take, they don't feel, they just know what they'll do. And I've heard this from other people who are drug addicts. They think that by taking a lot of maybe meth or drugs, I guess, I don't know, because I've never done that. I have never done that drug, and I have no desire to ever do that shit. I don't do any illegal drugs. They're illegal, and I don't mess with that stuff. But apparently, some people, and they should, in my opinion, all drugs should just be legalized, okay? The government should just let people do what they want to do, as long as they're not causing harm to someone else. Let them do what they want to do in their own home. I don't care. I'm not one to tell you what to do, but they should just legalize everything, in my opinion. Let adults make their own decisions when it comes to that, is what I think. That's just my opinion. I don't really fucking care what kind of drugs people do, but I don't want to get involved with stuff that I know is potentially dangerous or could kill you. But anyway, I've heard about these drugs. I've researched them on the internet, and I know a thing or two about what they are. But just from my own research and just being around people who are on that, and I've seen some people on drugs. But apparently people do that, and women, they'll do those drugs because it makes them more sexually aroused, or they just do it for reasons that are usually based on that. Or other reasons, to focus, to concentrate. Apparently, from what I've been told, that meth is a drug that helps. It's like Adderall, where it helps you concentrate or something. It's like Adderall, and I don't even know what Adderall is. I've never taken that stuff. I don't take prescription drugs either. But apparently meth is like Adderall. That's all. It makes you focus. And I'm like, I'm sure there's more to it than that. But I don't know. And I don't want to know, because I don't have any interest in doing that personally. But I learn from other people, from what they've told me. And people think that I'm some kind of a meth addict because of the way I behave and the way I talk. I've been, people think that I'm on drugs when I'm not on any illegal drugs at all, or drugs. The drugs that I take are supplements. I don't take prescription drugs. I do take supplements but that's about it. And I don't even take that all the time. So what I take, it's none of anybody's business, because I'm not out there drug pushing or whatever. But this is the United States, and we have to keep an open mind that people do drugs, they do alcohol, people do all kinds of stuff, and they're gonna, it's just you'd be shocked at who, the kinds of people, whatever. I'm not one to judge. I am not judging anybody from that. I'm just saying what I know from my own experience and from people I've met who are supposedly on these kinds of substances. I've met a few here in San Antonio, several actually, men. And I've known some women. I've seen the women doing that. I used to see what they would do with this house over by where I live next door. I'd see them stoned off their minds all the time, sitting in their car, dazed out, smoking shit, doing crap. I've seen it. I've been a witness to it, but I've never partaken in that myself because I don't want to. I could have, but I've made the decision that I don't want to get involved with those kinds of things because I'm already ADD enough as it is, or I don't think it would be of any benefit for me, being that I'm a gym addict and I like to exercise and I have my regimens, and that would just fuck it up, So no. I have done, what I have done in the past though is something that's legal. That is something that's called, it's this Delta crap that you can buy, this cannabis, that you can smoke it or you can vape it or eat a gummy. Now, the reason I say I'm okay with that, which I've done it a few times, experimented, is because the high, and still it's all this crap is still, it's all still weird because it's still synthetic. But if you want to compare that to regular marijuana, which I've done before, it's the difference with this Delta 9 and Delta 8 that you can buy legally, is that I've noticed that you get paranoid. Drugs will make a person paranoid if you do it too much. You shouldn't do anything too much. Everything in moderation, the way I see it. But the thing I notice with that stuff is that you don't get the same kind of paranoia from marijuana. The paranoia, you don't experience paranoia with the Delta and these things that you can buy legally. At least with me, I didn't get any kind of paranoia from it. None at all. None whatsoever. Whereas opposed to some marijuana, you might find yourself getting kind of paranoid. And you can tell sometimes when a person's on marijuana, they're super conscious about they're always kind of like, they try to act really serious. But I can tell when a person's stoned. I've seen it before, but they tend to try to play like they're being really serious. With me, I just I start laughing. I get giggly. I get a little bit paranoid, but I try, it's like I can feel the effects of these things easily with my body. Everybody's physiologically different. Things affect you differently, but my point is that right now, I don't do anything illegal. I'm not interested in doing anything illegal because you think that they would fucking legalize marijuana and do things like this and legalize drugs in this country, but no, and you would think that they would quit arresting people. Like, if it were up to me, okay, if I had it my way, I would release all these people who are in jail or prison or whatever for drugs, unless you did something really bad, like killed somebody or you did something really violent, I'd say let these people out of jail, okay? There's no reason why, in my opinion, somebody who was caught with a little bit of marijuana on them, on their person or whatever, should be locked up in jail, having their entire life ruined. They have kids at home, some of them, they have a family, they need to go back to work. Really, it's a waste of money to put people like that behind bars when they're not a violent person because they have, I'm just saying there's a lot of people who really probably shouldn't be in jail or prison if it's something like that, in my opinion. That's my opinion, and everybody's entitled to their own opinion. Just like myself, I do not believe in the death penalty. Okay, I know that there's violent people who are in prison for things like domestic violence, for murder, for rape, pedophilia, money laundering, financial things, whatever. But a lot of these people, they're not bad, violent individuals. They deserve to be reformed. They've been reformed in jail, usually most of the time. They're not, obviously they're not violent people. They're not a threat. I don't think the only people who are probably a threat are the people who are locked up in prison for like rape or child molesting children and whatnot. Those are the people who are probably obviously pretty dangerous to society. Rapists and people who are engaged with things that are abusive to children, to minors. That's what I think. That's my opinion. And that I'm sure that a lot of people share my view on that those are the more of the threat to the community, not people who have a little simple charge of marijuana or something like that. No, they don't really, they get a bad rap, but they're not really bad people. They did a bad thing at the wrong time and they got caught, but it doesn't mean that they're bad people. And they deserve to go through some kind of rehab program like AA, whatever, okay? They don't need to have their entire lives slandered and ruined because of something like that. Because they will slander your name and ruin your reputation in your life because of these kinds of things. And I don't think it's fair. I don't think it's I think that's completely unjust, a flaw in the justice system, the criminal justice system. And I certainly don't advocate. I don't care how stupid I sound. I do not at all believe in the death penalty for anybody. I don't care if I think it's the worst form of punishment out there. Let the person stay in prison for the rest of their lives, but the death penalty, no. I'm sorry, but no, I'm not sorry. I do not advocate the death penalty at all under any circumstances for anybody at all. And I have felt this way for years. I have my opinion about that has not changed. I felt the same way when I was in the U of H school for criminal justice pursuing my master's degree. I was the only person, I believe, one of the only few people in that whole class that I don't remember what class. It was something that was focusing on prisons, and I believe the teacher was Barbara Bell, some Bell bottom, some weird name. She was a redhead. And I remember that woman and that professor, and people were in shock. Like, they hated me because I was against the death penalty. They didn't like me because I was a person who was advocating for no surveillance and the government. I was against all that shit back then, and I was like, I don't believe in surveillance. I don't believe in the government keeping tabs on people. I don't believe in invasion of privacy. And I was talking about targeted individuals. I was talking about illegal surveillance. And of course, I was a target right there, and they drove me out of the university because I was too much of an advocate for individual human rights. And I got mobbed and stalked and slandered. And it was so intense that I had to withdraw from the entire program of which I was pursuing in criminal justice. Because literally, these people were making my life a living nightmare. And all I was doing was trying to go to class, finish my degree, in my master's degree, and they wouldn't let me. They would not let me do it. I'm not kidding you. They were making sure to get me out of there, no matter what I did, how. And I'm telling you that the government it's no joke when you're talking about things like surveillance, gang stalking, targeted individuals. And I was talking about John Brathwaite and the whole parallel justice system and how that directly ties in with mobbing, gang stalking, community-based harassment. And so I knew what I was talking about. I had my focus, but they were trying to make sure that I got thrown off path so that I was not going to complete my master's degree. And this was in 2007, I believe, when I started that. Was it 2007? It may have been even 2004. It was a long time ago, and then I tried again to finish it, and they started doing the same shit. I even tried online to finish it. I never finished it. So I have like over a year towards a master's degree in criminal justice, okay, at U of H downtown in Houston. And then I started getting involved with the Houston Police Department, trying, my private investigation. I did my Penn Foster online course for private investigation. I went to the Peace Officer Academy. I dropped out of that. I was like, I don't want to fucking wear a uniform and do this. It's not me. I was like, there's things I like about, but I was like, I can't fucking wear a uniform and be a police officer in a uniform. It's not me. I can't walk around with a gun. It's not me. My personality was telling me no. Can't do that. Won't do that. You know? And I was like, what the fuck am I doing? I had gone so deep down the rabbit hole of trying to like do my own investigation on my own life that I was like, this is just fucked up. I mean, I'm like, what am I doing? What am I doing with a bunch of people who are fucking trying to be a police officer in an academy? And here I am, the odd bird, like, who clearly didn't fucking fit in. I didn't even want to fucking hold a handgun. I was like, what the fuck is this thing? How do you use it? It would just make me shake using it, the gun. Even though I was trained to use a gun. I learned how to do all that stuff. I don't like guns. I don't really like weapons, but I believe in self-defense, and I believe that people, especially women who live alone in neighborhoods that are not that safe, especially, should have the right to bear arms. I believe that everybody has a right to bear arms under the Constitution. I believe that that's a fundamental right that should not be taken away from anybody. Of course, the government and the Constitution, we have that, but that's kind of null and void nowadays. But I believe that people have the right to protect themselves in their own property or protect themselves on their own property against invaders. It's a necessary thing nowadays because the world is not a safe place. This is common sense that we live in a society of such inequality and of such oppression and inequality and oppression that it is not such a bad thing to own a firearm or a weapon to protect yourself, for self-protection. I'm not saying to go kill somebody. I'm saying for self-protection. Yeah. It's not a bad thing. It's not a bad thing at all. But they want to make it so that these social communist Democrats or whatever the fuck try to make sure that people don't have a firearm, try to make sure that you are under constant control of the government, i.e. Big Brother watching you all the time. They want to take away all your rights to the point that you are nothing but a slave to their system. And look, I'm sorry, but as an individual who has had to go through a lot of things myself, fighting for my individuality and sovereignty, I'm not a complete anarchist. And you need to look up what anarchy is. Some of you who don't really understand what that word is, you need to look it up and realize where the word really comes from and realize it's not such a bad thing. It's not what you think it is. Okay, anarchy is not exactly what you think it is. Social communism, democracy is not what you think it is. Why don't you look these things up instead of making me look crazy and like I'm some kind of no. Some of you just don't understand the proper terminology of what the word really means. The etymology of the word. Some people don't understand exactly why we have anarchy or what it really stands for and why people are opposed to the government. Well, a lot of people are opposed to the government because they violate your rights, your individuality, and they want you to conform to somebody of which you're not. And this is the reason we have the reason the fucking people came over here from Europe. Obviously, your ancestors, those of you who are from, your ancestors came over here to fucking flee the oppression in Europe, to go against it, to come over to be able to have freedom of religion, freedom of speech, freedom of expression, all these things that now they're trying to take away from you with a social communist agenda. Why do people vote do you know what democracy even is? Do you understand that democracy is not a good thing? Do you realize what it's basically keeping you conformed to be a slave to their system and losing your individuality, losing your rights. That's what it is, ultimately. I mean, there's some good things about it, but I would say that we need more of a capitalist society. I believe that at its core, social communism is a very bad idea. And this is the same thing that Jordan Maxwell thinks. My views are the same as other people who agree that the social communist agenda is not such a good route for the United States. Now, I'm not saying that I'm anti-immigration, because I'm not. I do like the Latinos. I love the Latino community. I love Latin America. I've lived in Bolivia. I lived in Mexico. I speak some Spanish. I have nothing against immigrants from Latin America whatsoever. Don't think that about me, because that's not true. I don't. I am very fond of the Hispanic community in general. I think they're good people. And so don't put me in a fucking category of some racist, no, that is not at all who I am. You don't know me like you think you do. But people want to go ahead and judge me according to everything. That is not true about me, about myself. I am trying to say that I do not like social communism. I am trying to say that social communism is not good for the community. It's not good for the United States. We need free trade. We need NAFTA. Yeah, the North American Free Trade Agreement, okay? NAFTA, and they want to make Canada, they want to make sure that, they're trying to make Canada and Mexico and the United States all one, a big conglomerate of one, right? That's what NAFTA is, the aim of NAFTA is about, is to make it one big unity where trading and commerce and products, okay, that's not such a bad thing if it's involving Mexico, Canada, and the United States. Because, hey, I buy products all the fucking time from Amazon. I buy things from China. So who the fuck am I? I'd be a big hypocrite if I said I don't shop online. A lot of things are made in China that are good things, but a lot of things fucking fall apart. Like, these shoes, for example. Hey, I bought them online from a website called Temu, Temu. You can buy inexpensive things from China. It's going to take a couple weeks to get the item, and, hey, the shoes aren't that bad. Just an example. These shoes are decent. They're not that bad. And I paid, maybe $15 for them, and I've had them for a long time now, and they still are intact. They haven't fallen apart yet. They're in good shape. And I wear them all the time. And they were made in China. I also buy other off-brands made in China. I buy shoes, tennis shoes made in China. Hey, your Nike shoes and a lot of your Nike and your Adidas and your name brand shoes made in China. New Balance, a lot of these shoes were made in China or Indonesia. You can buy a shoe that doesn't have a brand on it, but it doesn't mean it's a bad shoe. A lot of times you're just paying extra money for the brand. Well, okay, it might be well made if it's made in Italy. If it's made in Europe, you're getting a better quality shoe. Maybe it's going to be different if it's actually, but we're talking there about expensive shoes that are handmade. That's different. That's a different category. I'm talking about tennis shoes and whatnot that I go through all the time because I go to the gym and I exercise. Well, I go through fucking tennis shoes like all the time. I spend a lot of my money goes towards tennis shoes, and I tend to buy them online, mostly Amazon, because I happen to like that particular shoe for whatever reason. And it is made in China. Yeah, it's made in China. I'm not against China. I'm against communism. I'm not against the Asian people or the country of China. I wouldn't want to live there. But I'm not, but it's a communist country just like Cuba. Just like a lot of these Latin American countries are communists, basically. So yeah, don't ask me what my people always want to talk fucking politics. What are you vote? Are you Democrat? Are you Republican? Are you gonna vote? No, I'm not. And I'm an independent party person. I don't vote for any of it. I'm not of any category because it's the same thing anyway. I don't vote Democrat. I sure as a fuck don't vote Republican. I don't vote any of it. I don't consider myself to be of any of those political affiliations. And I do not vote. I have not voted ever in my life, and I will not vote. And that's the way I like it. So you can't categorize me. The government is not going to fucking put me in a box to conform me to what they want me to be, because I can analyze and critically think for myself without the fucking government to interfere with my choices about what I put in my body, if I take medication or not, if I go to the doctor or not. The government can keep your dirty, your filthy fucking hands, pardon me, keep your nose out of my personal business when it comes to that. Medical COINTELPRO, for example, the government does not have the right to encroach on people's decisions when it comes to what you want to do with your body. Your body is your vessel of which God is the one who gave you. This is a gift from God. This is your body, nobody else. Not the government's, you. You are not a contract. You are a vessel from God. Everybody is a vessel, a unique vessel of God. Your blood, your veins, this is you, your DNA. Do not let the government, in my opinion, I'm speaking for myself here, do not mess with my God-given right to make my decisions about my own body, what I choose to do with that. That's where I really get fucking mad about that, when they try to tell you what to do. And no, I don't believe in medication. I don't fucking believe in Western medication unless it's something that you have to take for an antibiotic, that you have to get rid of an infection that you're gonna die if you don't. But in general, fuck the fucking pain pills, fuck the fucking medication, and fuck all that psychiatric shit, those fucking pills that they love to shove down your throat, these the fucking mental medication crap. No, thank you, but no thank you. I don't fucking take that shit, and I will not take that shit, and no.